the search and who were hurting because there was a little 2-year-old who was gone. Yes, sir.
Pardon me for interrupting, but some of these guys don't read the paper and see the news, they don't have time. But this was a 2-year-old that disappeared out of a house over here in some projects. And there were all kinds of alibis laid out there, what happened to the child. For over a year, police, detectives, did the FBI come in? Was it?
FBI came in, National Child, Missing Child Network came in, search dogs, search teams from all over the country came in. This went on for a year, looking for him for a year. And 10 days after that anniversary of his disappearance, the dad was charged with his murder. And that was tough, because imagine if you're in that situation and your department's been a part of this, and the whole time this person that you've been working with and said, my child's missing, and here giving you all these stories, all of a sudden he is the one that didn't confess to it. And so you're dealing with people within your department who are relieved that case has been solved, but the anger that is there also from that was tough. Downtown was, we were blessed at downtown to be able to host the memorial service for Malik, and that was a combination of the departments working together also. And I'm very thankful for that. I'm very thankful for a church like downtown where it's like, we want to be a presence in the community. We want to be able to open our building to a memorial service for a 2-year-old who this community has embraced for a year. And I was very thankful for that. It was a tough day. It was a stinking day. And, you know, being a chaplain is not all fun and games like you might think it is. I mean, I never, you know, as much as I love firefighting, I never get to put on my turnouts anymore and get behind a nozzle and go in. If it gets down to me and the chief putting on our turnout gear and getting there, we're in bad shape around here. I mean, you know, first off, you're talking about 2 old guys that are going in there with these young guys, have a lot more stamina than we do. But I don't get on the engine, ride the engine. Now, anytime they ask me, do you want to do something with the engine, you want to, like recently, you know, we have a 95-foot tower and we have a 75-foot ladder truck. They're like, hey, you want to go up in this? Yeah, I'm all about that kind of going up, you know, in the towers and those kind of things. But you know, I drive my own vehicle to the fire scene and help out, get there that way. There are tough times. There are tough times. One of the toughest times was within 1 year of becoming a chaplain in 2001, 9/11. That was tough, because the minute I didn't see it, but the minute I heard what was going on, I headed to Central Station because I wanted to be with those guys. I knew what these guys were going to be facing within our department, watching their brothers. And let me tell you what, the fire service is a true brotherhood. I told my wife many times, if you're traveling and have problems or anything, call the fire department. Tell them your husband's a chaplain with a fire department, a retired chief, and you will get the help that you need. She has every fire department's number pretty much between here and Little Rock when she was going to Children's. The main number she had was Joe Bratton in Jacksonville. I said, you know, if you have any problem in Jacksonville area, call Joe. He'll take care of it. But I knew what these guys would be feeling watching what was happening in New York. That was tough. And each year, I'm a part of a service that the fire department does here, is the 9/11 memorial. And each year, it just, you know, those wounds are still there. They're still deep. It's a part of us. And it's part of our DNA. Deaths and debriefings. I mean, I mentioned the kids, those 2 children that were lost in the fire. We've had other times we've had to deal with death within the fire service. Thankfully, we've never had an active duty firefighter fatality on the scene. We did have a deputy chief who who died of a embolism several years ago, and that hit the department hard. He was still active. He was in the hospital at the time. He was in rehab, threw a clot, and died immediately. But we had to deal with that. We had to bring in a debriefing team. And when we bring in a debriefing team, even though I'm trained, that's our department, I'm too close to it. I had to get somebody else in here, Tim.
I was curious, this is North Little Rock, only about a month or two ago, firefighter.
Sherwood, North Pulaski, yeah.
I was just kind of curious of being a chaplain. I know you haven't, maybe you haven't faced that here, but what would you do? That's a really tough scenario.
It is. I tell you what, I know from just dealing with Chief Turnbow's death, our hearts were broken, we cried a lot. I can't imagine what would happen when you're going in on a scene like that and you're making a first responder call and you shot, you. I know that they were surrounded by the chaplains in that area immediately. And, they're working through it. They will still work through it. And there's something about the DNA of a firefighter or a police officer, law enforcement, even paramedics that say, okay, we're going to push through this. We're going to get through this together. It may not sit in at that time. It's going to sit in sometime with those that are affected by that. But we reach out. We reach out around the state. When Chief Turnbow died, I had departments contacting me. How can we help you? What can we do? The day of his funeral, the entire department was off. Jacksonville came up and covered Central Station. Center Hill covered the west side of town. Higginson and Kensett covered the east side of town for us, so that our guys could, have that time for closure. And that's a blessing there to do that.
Got a question.
Yes,
You
sir.
mentioned if someone in the department, active firefighter died on the job, calling someone else. And I'm kind of wondering what that would look like, because I was a firefighter for 17 years, and we only had, the kids, whenever kids died is whenever people needed to sit down and talk things out. You get used to the adults, especially the ones that did something wrong and caused, but the kids you never get used to it. But I'm wondering how some firefighters are clannish.
Yes.
And I'm wondering how somebody from we never had to have anybody come in from outside the department to deal with stuff like that. How does that work? And I can imagine I wouldn't talk to them.
Yeah. And I appreciate you asking that, because, and I was going to get to that too, because the brotherhood that's within firefighting, the brotherhood within the police department is very closed. Close, but it's closed. The relationship that I have with these guys in this fire department, I wouldn't have with the fire department in Jacksonville. Even though I've worked with Joe, they know me, they know I'm a backup to him when he's traveling or something like that. And the same with him. That's what made part of that, him coming in and some others coming in and helping, is we had that relationship. So we knew this was a safe person, but there's still a safe person's arm length that is there. And you mentioned something there too. Totally different when it's an adult and when it's a child that you're dealing with on some of the debriefings I've done have done very seldom been with an adult, it's been with children. Or it's been with somebody on the department. That's a whole different ballgame right there. And clannish, I think is a good way to put it. I mean, it's tight. It's a tight knit. I mean, those guys and ladies, I mean, they know they can call me at any time. My phone's open for them. And I'm okay with that. Because if there's something going on in their lives and their families and they're married, their job, whatever, you know, if they call, if they just get to a point where they just don't like Chief Baldridge, and that happens, you know, that happens.
But that relationship gives you a foot in where they're gonna open up to you where they wouldn't to somebody
They wouldn't to
else, no
somebody
matter who
else.
it was.
And that's what Chief told me too, from the get-go. He said, I want those guys to know that they can come in and talk to you about anything, including me, and you're not gonna come out of that office and come to me and tell me. He said, the only thing I want you to tell me about is if they are a danger to themselves or the department. And, you know, and really, that's a judgment call on yourself too, on, okay, is this kind of crossing that line there where I need to go to the chief on this? But you're right, I mean, it's a tough one, it's a tough call. And I will only call in like that when I said with Chief Turnbow, because I was close to it. I knew the struggles I would have getting through that debriefing myself. There was hurt, there was anger in there, because what happened to him didn't have to happen. Because he did something, well, just downright honest. He got drunk, fell, cut his arm open, had to go to the hospital, was doing better, was going through rehab, and clot had developed. They didn't catch it. He died in rehab right there. I think that's what more the guys were dealing with than anything else, the anger part of that. Something that didn't have to happen there. And I was too close to it, so that's why I was able to get some of these others I trusted, and we in the departments had a relationship with, and a working relationship. But you know, those tragedies that you face, the rookies that are coming on, you know, it's kind of scary when you look around and realize some of these guys that are on the department. When you add up the number of years that several of us were talking the other day, for the 3 battalion chiefs and myself and Chief Baldridge, you add up the number of years that the 5 of us have in fire service versus the cumulative amount of years that the rookies have, which is 1 year or less, and some of those up to 5 years. The 5 of us have more years, about triple of what these guys do, 5 years and under. Now, you know, a couple things come to mind on that. Number one, we're old, and we realize it. The other thing is, these guys are young. You want to be able to help them come along and develop in their career and develop in their profession. And you know, that's part of my job too, is to encourage them along. I don't know how many of them I've sat down and talked with that are struggling to get through EMT. And if any of y'all have ever gone through EMT training, it's not a walk in the park by any means. I had mine 25 years ago, 30 years ago almost now. And I don't want to go down that road again. But some of these guys are just, they get 3 opportunities to take it. And on that third one, if they can't pass it, then, you know, by department standards, we have to cut them loose. And there's some good men and women. I've sat and talked with them, I've encouraged them, I've prayed with them. I still remember praying with one of our guys that's a captain now. Outside of old Central Station downtown, by his truck, tears running down his face because he was up to his last time to take that test. He's one of my best friends. We've shared a lot together. We've shared a wife leaving him. We've shared his current wife going through cancer. And, you know, guess what? Something comes up like that, Mike contacts me and says, you know, hey, here's what's going on. I need you to be praying on this. Like, can we put that on the church prayer list? Yeah. Yeah, be very comfortable with that. So.
Tom, I'm sorry, they do have.
You got other stuff. One more thing. Here's what a chaplain is not. Okay?
If you're interested in this, Tom has brought all kinds of guidelines, suggestions. Some of these groups that he's referred to are formal associations. I hope that some of you, sometime when you get out there, can glorify God by being this type of ministry to the community. I want to say this, though. All of you can't do this. You have to know yourself, your personality type, and the way you handle these type of crises. Don't feel guilty if you can't be a mirror image of some of these heroes. We're all made differently. But this is a great service that Tom provides in our community. Thank you, Tom.
Hey, just one last thing, and I just want to leave this with you. Wherever you are, just look for opportunities God's going to give you to serve, because they're there. It may not be fire, police, sheriff, anything like that. It may be that city club. It may be wherever, the school, or whatever. Thanks, y'all.